Okay, so now that we've done some rough drawings and done a rough model sheet of Peter, why don't we go ahead and have some fun with the wolf? Now, some of you, if you want to follow along with me, remember, doing good animal character design is really all about knowing how to draw that animal, first of all. So I would advise you, if you guys have not, if you don't know how to draw wolves, then before you do this, go away and research wolves. Really learn how to draw them. That's the key. There's no trick, there's no secret other than understanding how a wolf is put together, knowing their anatomy, knowing all the parts that make a wolf, and then you bring all that information into your design process. And then everything we've talked about, over the course of this entire course, is applicable. Designing a wolf for animation is no different than designing a human. You just need to know your anatomy. You need to know those parts that make that animal what it is, or that, or human or whatever. And then you can start caricaturing, which is what we're going to do today. So, like I said, go draw some wolves, learn how to draw them, learn them inside and out, understand their anatomy. And then if you want to follow along, or just follow along with what I'm doing now, and we'll dive in. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. And so right now we're just going to, I want to find the design. I'm just going to start experimenting. I know what wolves look like. I know how they're put together. I know their anatomy. And so I want to start to caricature that. And keeping in mind, we've done Peter already, and I've done Peter in more or less a Disney style character design. So I'm going to do the same thing with the wolf. The wolf I'm going to keep somewhat naturalistic, although I'll give him some character in the face so he can emote. But in my mind, in this story, he's not going to talk. He's still going to be a wolf, okay? So let's go ahead and dive in. So wolves, first of all, they tend, they're very big and shaggy up front. And their heads tend to be a bit boxy, from the outside. So I know that, they've got this big mass in their necks. And I want to give him a bit of a brow. And I want to give him a long snout, I think. I'm going to draw him in profile, first of all, sorry. Just to let you know what I'm doing. And I'm just kind of warming up. They got their shoulder blades here, right down into the body, like so. I'm going to shrink that up like I always do, just so I have a little bit of room. I always start out drawing too big. It's just a habit I've always had. There we go. And then, they've got this big bushiness of fur along the sides. If you looked at a wolf's skeleton underneath, the skull really is just, with the eye sockets here, cheekbone, teeth. The jaw is really just in here. It comes along and comes up like that. That's a wolf skull, like so. That's what it would look like, and with the teeth here and the canines. So all of this that you see under here, that's all fur and all kinds of stuff that sit underneath. So that's what I'm more concerned about, because that is what we're going to see on the outside. So that's what I'm going to focus on, even though I keep in mind what's going on underneath. And I'm going to push that nose out further. Maybe give him a bit more, he's supposed to be a sinister force, so I'm going to give him some heavy brows. And I want to push that shape a little bit. I like that, how this shape kind of flares out. I just like how all of that can kind of flow into here. And then it comes down into fur underneath like that. So I want to find nice, pleasing fluidity in the design. And keeping in mind, if you could see the shoulder blade under there, the shoulder blade comes like this and connects up here. And then there's an elbow like that. I want to have some nice long legs. I want to push that caricature. So by doing that, I'm going to make him a little bit longer and just give him a bit bigger, just more threatening looking chest. Like so. And then I can push, that pelvis is back here. There we go, something like that. Then I can push the length of the legs, which are going to come down something like that. And then give them kind of, I like to flare out the feet a little bit. Gives it a little bit more caricature. There we go. Shrink it up again. I just want to find, like I said, I want to find some nice, pleasing shapes in here. And that shoulder comes in way up here. There's the elbow coming off of here. And I think I want to make this leg a little bit longer. There, that feels pretty good like that. Maybe I'll just draw the other leg coming back like this. They got the little dew claw. His thumb is back here. Something like that. Something here, there's something in this that I'm liking. I think we can push the caricature. I can push that a bit. I want to balance this up here, that's bigness. I can balance that out with the bushiness of the tail. See, that balances it out a bit. So right now I'm just looking for some pleasing shapes, and then I can start pushing that a little bit. I wonder if I increase, whoops, if I increase the head size a little bit. I play with all of these different aspects. That feels a little better. I think I want to pull his whole neck and everything out. So I'm going to, whoops. I'm going to, there we go. That's feeling short to me. So if I pull this out here, now we're getting into that's feeling a little better. I'm getting into a place that I like a little bit better. There. I want to have that kind of feel. Keeping things very simple. There's my mantra, keeping it simple. Right down into those cheekbones. I want him to feel somewhat thin, you know, because he's hungry. But not so thin and skinny. I don't want to show ribs and all that kind of stuff. I don't want him to be so thin and skinny that he doesn't seem like a threat. He should still feel like a big threat. And maybe he's got some shagginess coming off of him down here. But already, I'm starting to see something that I like so. Get some thinness up in here. Get all this nice and accurate. So shoulder blades, there'd be a little bit of muscle under there, but we're not really going to see it because of the fur. It's going to be more fur than anything else. So I'm really looking for nice, maybe a little bit of a line that comes down that way, indicating some muscle in the neck. And then we'll have some shagginess coming up here. Now another thing that a wolf has that's really distinctive is this shape of fur. It comes off the shoulders. This shape right here that comes down like that. It's like a big scruffiness. So there's something here that I'm digging. I like. So I've got this simple, nice simple sweeping shape. That's what I'm looking for, that flow. I want something that's going to feel fluid and slinky and a little bit, you know, scary. Something like so. Now if I lighten that up, let's try doing some drawing over the top of it. So once again, I'm thinking about that anatomy. I know that skull is under there. I want to keep things simple still, but maybe now I can get a little bit of fur coming down, and I want that, I purposely want that to feed right into, down into here. So it kind of, I don't want the head to feel like it's separate. So this is a way of kind of making it feel like it's kind of woven into the rest of the design. Rather than if I did something like this, if I just did this, and then drew fur, it would just feel like the head's cut off. You know what I mean? So if I do something like this instead, that kind of weaves itself into the rest of the design, then that can come down in there like that. It just feels a little bit better. Now here, I know there's cheekbones that come in, and I can use that. Because that's gonna, you know, I would probably use that as a color separation, where this will be dark up above and then light down in here. And I'll show you what I'm doing. Because the mouth, I want that jaw to come down a little better than that. I want to stay real true to this feel. There. So we can see that lower jaw. There we go. And then this, that could be a color separating there. So this would all be white in here, and then darker fur. Now I might indicate a little bit of fur going that way. And I'm just going to draw this in like so. Not really, I'm just kind of giving him a neutral expression right now. So I want to find proportion. Right now this feels all right. There we go. Maybe a little bit of indication there of the teeth underneath. And then you'd have a little bit of, this would indicate a little bit of cheek coming off the cheekbones that way. That could all feed in like that. There we go. There. And so here, I'm just going to indicate a little bit of fur. Keeping it simple. I want to keep these shapes consistent. And once again, off those shoulder blades. And here I would just, because, you know, I want to think about how I'm going to animate this. So I don't want tons of fur breaks everywhere. So this, I want to just kind of keep it to a minimum. Maybe a couple of breaks here, coming down for that shoulder. And I'm of the mind in animation, you know, I don't mind a little bit of, if it's hand-drawn animation, I don't mind that line boiling around a little bit for, you know, when you're indicating fur. You know, to me, this is a hand-drawn medium, and that's part of what makes it hand-drawn, so I don't mind that. Some people get a little bit bent out of shape about if the line moves, but I like that personally. So I'm going to come right down into the wrist. Now remember, wolves, you know, for those of you that know, wolves kind of stand up on their toes. It's as if, you know, they're standing like this, or actually like this. They sit like that. So their pad is this part of their hand, like that. and then their toes are all kind of crinkled up. So the wrist is here. Imagine this being the hand. And then that part right here is this part. And then it comes down right into the toes here. Now, because this is animation and character design, I want to simplify it. So right here, it's a little bit realistic. So I'll probably go back in and simplify that a little. Once we, this is our first initial, hey, let's just get in and draw some wolves and play with some proportions a little bit. That's the first initial part of it. Bringing that leg down. Once again, I know there's a knee there, and I know the ankle and the gluteus muscles right here, the back of the thighs, all that stuff. But I want to adapt it, simplify it, caricature it for animation. But it really takes knowing the anatomy, like I'm doing here, knowing that first before you can go in and caricature it. Like I said, so many people have asked me to do special character design courses for how to design animals. And it's really, like I'm going to sound like a broken record again. It's really all about knowing your subject matter, okay? Once you know your subject matter, knowing that animal, knowing the anatomy, then you can go in and you can caricature it. And that's what I'm doing here. I know how to draw wolves. I've drawn wolves. I've drawn a lot of different animals. And so then I just take what I know and I apply that to the caricature. So here's very quickly our first attempt at getting somewhat of a realistic, well, he's not realistic, he's going to be caricatured, but he still plays a real wolf. He's not a speaking role, is what I'm saying. There we go. Which is, it's okay. Still a little realistic for me, but I like it. So it's a starting point. So why don't we go ahead, now that we got something out, I like these shapes. I like everything that's happening in here. I'm going to go ahead and shrink that up. So with that in mind, I can go ahead and, I'm going to shrink that up a little bit more. Give myself some room. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and do some character. So let's have him looking, I'm going to turn that off. Let's have him looking back, but looking very, very sinister. And I want to pull those eyes in, I think, kind of close. Because what I like this kind of feel where the nose flares out. So I want to counter that a little bit. I'm just experimenting, but I want to counter that a little bit with the eyes being close together. There. And something in there. Let's give him a smile. I mean, I know I said even, he's going to play a real wolf, but I still want to give him some character. I like this kind of shape. There's that kind of dog snout shape, which is what I was trying to hit a little bit right in there. If I look at that again, you can see I've got a nice hard edge down where the jaw comes down. But up here, I'm going to try keeping this a little more rounded out because I'm going to have a hard break right there. So maybe counter that with some curves, straights and curves. Always think about your straights and your curves. So here, I want to have this come up This is going to feed right into his ears. And once again, what am I doing? I'm drawing too small. I mean, too big. I'm going to shrink it up. There we go. Ears. I'm going to just scribble something out. I want to push that caricature a bit more. Cheekbone. Actually, it's, he's smiling, so that cheek's going to bunch up. But there's still cheekbone coming off of that skull. And then the fur tends to come off this ear, off the inside of the top of the ear like so, and then we can get those big shapes. Now, I want to make it feel like he's maybe looking back, so let's do this. I'm going to bunch this up because he's looking backwards. Maybe we can do something like this where he's taking a step forward. I'm going to make it a little bit more front 3/4. So this will come down like in here. So he's looking over like so. Shoulders would be actually back there. This is all getting bunched up. He's walking like so. Or I wanted to have this kind of big shape here and skinny. And if this foot's coming forward, that means on the back leg, that back leg is stepping forward. Like so. There. Pushing the caricature. There we go. Nice big tail. See how scribbly I'm being? Don't be afraid to be really scribbly. Like so. There we go. I'm going to flare those feet out. I want some bigger feet. I want them a little bit floppy looking. There we go. Let's flop it. There we go. You can see what I'm trying to do here, and then that feeds right into here. This shoulder would come up here, like so. And we'd have this fur coming down. There. And all this would be broken up fur. There we go. Just experimenting, playing with caricature. That tail. I'm going to pull that tail just in a little bit, maybe in here. Or I can just give it a little fluidity. If I shrink it up a little bit and continue, this kind of, maybe the tail's kind of doing this thing. Just for the sake of the drawing. It might look nicer to do something like that. Yeah, I kind of like that better. There. There's this and that. I want to make sure that's nice and distinctive. Coming down like so. And this feels like it's bunched up a little bit. There we go. Turn it back. Not too bad. Yeah, I was just looking to see what it might look like with his tail tucked under, but I like this better. I got to give him these hips, a little stronger hips. I want to have this flow more like what we had earlier. I think it'll flow a little better. There we go, like so. Now I'm going to lighten that up and we'll play around with it a little bit just to get a sense of what he might look like. There's something here that I like, so I'm gonna stick with. I'm liking the eyes close together. I want to give him some brows, something to move around to get expression. So I'm going to get in there and play with some of that detail. So if we play with, and this will, on real wolves, there's a bit of a color separation in there. There we go. Actually, I'll bring that back up, follow that form a little more. I want to maybe wrinkle up that nose a little, get a little area of detail in this area around the eyes. Now the eyes on wolves tend to, they're heavily, they're dark, almost like mascara. There we go. I want to pull that eye in even closer and then get that there. That feels pretty nice. See, I like that. I like pulling those together like that and just getting just seeing what it looks like. Then we can pull everything else kind of up and around like so. There we go. There's a couple of lines there to indicate that break. Nose. Now the nose on a wolf. Look at your dog's nose, because obviously you're going to have the same nose. Pretty close. Bears and wolves, dogs, are very distantly related, and so if you look at their noses, they're very similar. That's just a really useless piece of trivia. But if you know how to draw a dog's nose, then you're going to know how to draw a bear's nose, just in case you're ever designing a bear, which I've designed a few. There we go, maybe a couple of breaks. And we'll let this come around. I'm going to follow that through, come around like so, and maybe a bit of a... So I want to give him a little bit of a sinister feel. And all this fur kind of be bunched up like that. And then here, that's getting bunched up. Right here, the ears, I'm trying to keep things somewhat simple. I'm trying to find, me personally, when I start to design, I always come, because I want to learn my anatomy, I want to know everything I can about that thing, whether it's an animal or a human or whatever. I tend to start on the realistic side, just because I'm regurgitating all the stuff that's in my brain, and then it becomes, for me, I need to see it visually before I can start simplifying it. And so that's kind of the process that we're doing here. I'm throwing in a lot of stuff right now, and then eventually, we'll get this simplified, and that's going to come down like so. That feels pretty good. Like I said, I like the contrast of all the fur on the neck, and then right into the shoulders. all the fur on the neck and then keeping the rest of the body relatively smooth. There's a nice contrast to that. And then this line comes down into here. There we go. And there's his shoulder. There we go. Right down into his arm. There we go, like so. Let's turn that around again. I just like to check and recheck and double check and triple check, quadruple check. You know, it's a lot of times, I've said this before in other videos, you know, learning how to draw and making your drawings look nice, it's not always about, you know, knowing how to draw it right. Sometimes it's about knowing how to see when it's wrong. And so that's one of the reasons I flop my drawings so much, is because, you know, when I flop it, I get to see it from a different perspective, and I get to, you know, I see where it's wrong. And then I can go in and make adjustments and correct it. There's some fur coming down. There we go. Thinking about that anatomy coming in. Toenail, toenail, like so. And then one over here. I want to keep nice. Yeah, I want to bunch up these toes. There we go. So that it, and then you'd actually see a little bit of his thumb right there. Yes, they have a digit that's part of the thumb. On us would be a thumb. Let's get that foot there. And I'm imagining the other part, and you know, that thumb would be right in here. I'm just going to very quickly draw this in. Like so. That kind of feeds up into here like so. There we go. A little bit of fur. I want to keep these legs nice and thin. I think I can probably push that. We'll push that in the next drawing. I don't think I'd see that ankle. Get that like that. We're starting to get something that, I'm just going to brush that in. I'm starting to get something here that I like. So let's play, you know, this is my process here. When I'm finding that design, I don't have to draw out the whole thing. Let's switch it back. There's something interesting there. I'm liking that. So what I'm liking these eyes being set close together and the snout being a little bigger. I like that contrast. It makes him feel a little goofy. You know, why don't we try, I'm going to focus on the head a little bit. So if we put his eyes close together and then just kind of did this. There we go. Get that nose on here like so. I like this contrast, getting that snout kind of big against the eyes. So I'm going to pull these ears up like so. There's a balance there. I like that. Eyes close set together. Let's pull this in. This line, I'm finding out this, I like this, and then coming out and feeding it into the neck. Yeah. Here and there. Nice, simple. I'm trying to stay fluid. That's a little different than the last one we did. See, I'm trying to stay a little more fluid with these lines. I'm finding the big shapes with the fur. There we go. What if we made our legs really long? Just to see. There's something there that I like. Let's bunch this way up. There we go. Like so. Give them ankles here. See here, now I'm pushing that caricature a little bit. I can pull a leg out this way. There. There we go. You know, the ankles on dogs and deer and a lot of four-legged animals, they kind of come together. So that the toes point outward like so. There's that thumb, that would be there. And I'm going to bring the tail down like so. There's something here that feels good. This shape feels like it should come because I've got this nice break like that. What if we just curve that right out? Simple, simple shapes. Let that feel like it's coming around in. There's something there too. We're finding the design, pushing the caricature. There's a knee right there. Pushing the caricature to try to find what's pleasing. That foot is not turned the right way. I want to turn it out a little bit. There we go, towards us. I'm balancing things out. I want to make sure, we got all this long skinny. Don't want it to feel like he's sitting on little pogo sticks. I want to give him a little bit of weight at the bottom, with those toes. So, there we go. I could do this too. Leave that down. So we're not having them smile. Something like that. So if I knock that back, there's something in here that I'm starting to like. I'm going to go a little bit more round with the eye. Heavy line work around it like he's got mascara, because they've got that heavy darkness. But I want to make sure that this expression is nice and clear. And then one of the things to make him look really kind of scary is to get that pupil really small and distinct. And That feels a little scarier looking in the expression. There, so nice thin nose here coming down. Into the bigger snout. I'm going to have it kind of break this way so that it balances this. See there? And then I'm going to do that. Give him a little bit of a lip. And then I just imagine this shape kind of coming around and filling that out with that bottom jaw. There we go. We'll draw that nose in. I always like to draw that center line. And I think of the front of the nose often as being kind of concave, so I reverse that curve a little bit. There we go. And we'll just color that in just to get a little sense of the balance there and what the color would be. And I want to indicate those cheekbones, something there with the cheekbones, which would feed right up into here. I want my line work, my leading lines to kind of flow together. There we go. There, I'm going to push that expression a little bit more. But I'm liking, there's something there that I like. He feels wolfy. We'll break up that fur a little bit. Break it up there a little bit. I'm not liking that. We'll have it come down. I want to make sure I'm not running a tangent into this, so I want to pull that out enough. That line work right there. And we would still have maybe a little bit of break just to indicate the head turning right there. Now let's do this. Breaking up the fur there. There. You know, I'll stay with this for now. I'm wondering if I'm going to go back on what I said earlier. I wonder if it might be nicer to have this color sep. Nah. No, I think it's better this way, doing it the way we're doing it. Letting that feed down into there for now. For now. And we'll see later. Bring that down. This is getting really busy, so I'm gonna get rid of that. Not crazy about that. Let's do something like that. So then I'm going to get rid of this. Just let that come around a little bit like that. There we go. And then coming off into the shoulders. Once again, just letting that kind of fade down. And now I want to simplify. I've got all that broken fur. I want to simplify the rest of the body. There we go. Right into the hips. the thigh and the calf. There's a knee. I want to keep this nice and simple, that inside line. Once again, straights and curves. Actually, just like on humans, if you know human anatomy, that outside ankle is going to be lower than the inside ankle. So I just draw that a little bit lower. And simple shape. Like so. I think that's going to be the way to do it for him. But I like this long, thin, kind of slightly emaciated leg. You know, he's hungry, but he still looks capable, and that's what's important. So I'm just trying to find the design, playing with some of this fur, and I'm trying to balance out, once again, remembering balancing out nice clean areas against furry areas. Because if you have everything furry or you have everything flat, it won't look right. Let me pull that back. That got a little funky. There we go. And we get that curve coming down. There's that inside ankle. And right down into the foot. Like so. There we go. Curve straights. The head feels like it's a little bit squashed in here. I'm going to do something really quick. I'm going to actually, I'm going to erase this back. Let's flop it real quick, just to see where we're at. That's not too bad, but you know what feels weird? It's just the way that head sits. So I think if we take it, constantly finding what works, what doesn't. I want to move it over here a little bit and move it up a little bit. That feels a little better to me. So now I'm going to bring the whole thing down. There we go. So now I end up with something that's this feels a little better. So I can get this kind of just flowing into here. And then this I can kind of have, there'd be a little bit more of a difference. It was kind of floating in the middle of, both sides look the same. So I want to vary it up a little bit, and that feels a little better to me. There we go. That lets me come down and maybe bring some fur in there like so. There we go. And once again, big foot, because I want to balance it out. There. You'd have the dog's claws are down in here. Same here. This should actually bulge out for the wrist. And actually the thumb is right there. You do something like that. Not that complex, and you're anatomically correct if you do it that way. And then we have there, there, there. And then if you want, we can put the toenails in nice and clean, like so. This feels pretty good. Now the other thing I might try, looking at it now, if I just smooth that hip out a little bit. Nope, don't like it. I'll go back to what I had. I like that nice angle right there to balance out the rest of everything else. So there's something here that I'm kind of liking. I think it can be pushed a little more. And we're just finding that design. Let's flop it again. It's all about finding the design. Let's put him right here. Well, I think we're getting close. But let's focus on that head a little bit more, because I think we've got something working with the body. I want to work on that head just a little bit more and get something that I like. Let's see. I know I want to have the ears at the top fairly close together. Let's see here. Let's get those eyes. I want to keep those eyes close together. I'm going to try just making them round and giving them this kind of shape. There's something kind of creepy and scary about that. Now let's bring this way out. Let's turn this around a little bit more. Okay, once again, I'm going to try. I'm just going to let this come out, but I'm going to flare it out. That's not too bad. Cheekbone, see how they kind of follow that. The cheek would follow that circle, that construction circle. And the muzzle underneath kind of would come up like this. If I were to draw that out. Let's do this. I want to get that brow shape in there. You know, when I get to this stage, I'm really playing. I'm just looking at design. What is from almost from an abstract standpoint. I just want to see how certain shapes feel together, and how much I can push contrast of shape. Because ultimately, I want nice, big, simple silhouette shapes. You notice I'm letting those ears break, but I can have this big, simple feel like that. Whoops. Like this. See? I mean, I can be really scribbly, but you can really get a sense of already how that dog would feel. Like so. Here's something that's pretty cool. As far as just how tall he is. Pushing that again. Always, if we can only do this in, an hour or two on video, the way we're doing it now. When I'm doing stuff like this, I might do hundreds of these drawings, really refining. So I want you to see this process of what I'm doing here. And even though we're going to settle a little easier, I might, and I might end up coming back to where I started, but I really want to exhaust all of my options. And I'm liking this a lot. There we go. So this, you see how big that shape is? If we drew it in 3/4, it might look something like, there's the eye. Let's see here. There we go. If we drew it in 3/4, this part here would be down in here. The mouth would be coming up. And you see it still feels caricatured. See that mouth? Like so. Cheekbones coming down. There's the brow shape. Like so. And if I'm going to move this over, if these ears came up, kind of drawing myself into a corner up here, but actually that ear would be pulled up further, like so. Like that. You get these big shapes. That's what I'm looking for. Like so. This is feeling good. I want that feel. I like this feel. This feels, this long. See, I think I'm starting to nail something here, and that can flare back out. That's kind of scary. Let's see what that would look like tied down. So I'm going to knock that back a hair. And this might be it. This might be the one we go with. There's something about this that I'm liking that feels threatening. Oops, I need a new layer. I'm going to push these brows. Get those eyes in there. There, like so. Notice how I'm making the pupil really clear in the white, because I want it to feel real threatening. Do something here like so. These lines are too much. I'm going to get rid of that and just bring this up like this. We'd have a little bit of these lines coming down like that. You can do something like that with the fur. See how we're getting somewhat stylized. Drawing straight on like this where the face is symmetrical, that's always really hard. But, you know, one of the things in nature that shows aggression is when you stare directly at something or somebody. And it's universal. Even we as humans, if we stare at somebody directly and look them right in the eye like that, it's pretty unnerving. And In the world of primates, if you do that with gorillas, they'll attack you, or chimps or anything like that, any primate. But the same with, I mean, have you ever stared at your dog like that? It makes them feel really uncomfortable. So, point being, staring straight at someone or creating a pose like this creates a little unsettling feel. I'm liking this. There we go. We get that feel coming off of there. That comes off of there. Off the ears. I want to keep the ear shapes simple as well. You know, normally there's a little break over on the outside edge, but I don't want to do all that. I want to take that out. Just keep those shapes simple. Maybe we have some fur breaks inside, like so. I really want to get this expression working right. I'm going to push that brow a little heavier. There we go. There, that feels pretty good. Let's just try putting a few breaks and then just drawing it in. Not so furry. A couple of breaks and then just draw it in. Let it just kind of meld in like so. You know, that doesn't feel too bad. Couple of breaks, and coming down. Maybe a couple of breaks down here and coming down in. That feels pretty good. Same thing here. See, I'm not drawing fur everywhere. I'm letting that come in and come around like that. I think I finally broke through. This is feeling good. And then I want to get that shoulder, which is going to be here. And I'll let that be somewhat furry. We'll balance that out. I don't like that, but I'll do it again. There. Let that come around like so. And remember, I liked that break in the hip, so I'm going to keep that. Actually, I'm going to pull the hip over just a little bit because we're looking at it more straight on. So that hip's going to be closer inside. Something like that. There we go. And let's put just a few fur breaks down in there like that. And then we'll balance it out with a few fur breaks in there. This is going to come down. This is the shoulder and the upper arm. There we go. That's going to come down to the leg. I want this line work to be nice and simple. All the way down there. I do want to keep that thumb. There's just something about, I like having the thumb on there. And let's keep that simple shape like we were doing before. And we'll get those toenails in there. There, I like that. I'm imagining the shoulder. I'm going to let this come in here. There's that shoulder on the other side. And I want this leg is going to be back just a little bit further. Let's bring it back here. Into the break in the wrist. And then there's the other foot there. And we'll do that. And the other toe you can't really see. There we go. I like having that little bit of skin. And just like we did on the other wolf, I want to keep this nice and straight. Ankle coming down, nice straight line. And then here we've got thigh muscle, calf muscle, like so. And then the ankle here is going to be way down there. And then let's turn those toes out just a touch. There we go. So now I'm digging this. That feels like a wolf I want to animate. Feels nice and caricatured, or at least caricatured enough for what we're doing, for the style of what we're doing. Let me bring this down. And here we go. Oh, that feels good. And I think he'd be fun to animate. So now that I think we found our rough drawing, the next one will be, our next phase will be to rough out some poses. Now remember, the key to that, the struggle with that is making sure you keep that caricature. And that's what we're going to work on next. So there's a design that I'm liking. And once again, this got a little bit out of control. I just want to keep that, I want to keep everything as simple. I think I'm going to round that out. I want to keep things as simple as possible. There we go. That feels better. That's nice and clean. We've got a nice break there coming down. And now let's get a little bit of furriness on that tail. There's our wolf. I think that's it right there. That feels pretty good. I think this is the wolf that we want. Right here. That guy. So why don't we go ahead and actually, it's funny, coming back and looking at this one again, it doesn't feel like it's a far cry from where we started on that profile. I think the legs are a bit longer, but other than that, I think we've basically come back to the same place. But now that we've got a rough wolf design, why don't we go ahead and now start playing with some different poses, some different attitudes, and come up with a rough model sheet.